Hello, everyone. My name is Dom, and I'm a founder and the creative director of Brighton Zoo, a brand new production company on the south coast of England, formed by the coming together of Blue Zoo and Plug-in Media. Now, we are all in the business of ideas, and it being a business, there comes a time when we have to take our ideas and actually try to sell them. But what is the best way of going about that? Do we dazzle our buyers with drawings or submerge them in scripts? Are we submitting 80-page Bibles detailing every aspect of our fully imagineered worlds? Or are we spending weeks agonizing over the log line that says it all, believing that the people in TV are in TV because they don't like reading? In short, how do we best pitch our ideas? Well, the one thing that most of us have in common is that we never really get to see how anyone else is doing it. What's more, there's the sneaking suspicion that different buyers prefer completely different approaches. Well, we've gathered together some great minds from every corner of the industry to answer the same set of questions and bravely share with you how they go about it. And I sincerely hope you enjoy hearing what they have to say as much as I did.
The first stage would be that for a pitch meeting, we've already gone through a couple of kind of exchanges, to be honest, just to make sure that we're not wasting everyone's time. Because, you know, as everyone knows, it's not just about how great the idea and the pitch is. It's also, do we need it? And have we got the money for it and the space? So we go through that usually just on email to start with, just to say, well, tell us a little bit about it. Have you got a one-pager? You know, what's the target audience? What's the key characters? And obviously the genre. Once we've got past that and it's worth the pitch, then that can vary really. A lot of the time we are looking for known IP, just to help discoverability and to help hopefully to ease the funding, the finance plan, you know, from multiple partners. So sometimes it is the existing IP, particularly if it's picture books, preschool picture books. But we're certainly not looking for scripts. And so, you know, maybe it's a series deck or a Bible. Sometimes it is just the books because we will start talking to people really early. And we do like doing development deals if it's appropriate, funded development deals.
So I tend to go to the table with a 3-page short pitch Bible. And I will hire a designer to give me the artwork for that and sort of bring my what I have in my head visually while I do the words. So and that 3-page Bible consists of like the page 1 is obviously your pitch poster. It just has the title of the show, the log line, and an amazing visual that should sell it in a glance, hopefully. And it's that glance and you get it kind of thing. That's page 1, it's just that. Page 2, I'll get some additional art and character poses, and I'll accompany that with punchy copy outlining the main characters and what the show's about. So that's second slide of your 3-page Bible deck. And then page 3, I'll springboard 3 episodes minimum, maybe 5 or 6. But again, just single paragraphs, and that work will have gone into that 3-page Bible to keep it as simple as possible. It starts waffly when you put it all down, and I refine that and get it punchy.
I think because we were kind of like small, we were like a small regional company. We didn't have all the resources of bigger companies. But we like kind of looked at what other people were doing, and we were like, because we are so small, we need to make a noise, and we need to make sure that we can kind of showcase that we can do it. Because I always said that we were like a horse running the Grand National. We'd been trotting around a paddock for a while. We all looked all nice and shiny, but we'd never actually like ran the race. So people had to bet on us, and they not only did they have to bet on us, we hadn't even like jumped the first hurdle. So they were kind of like, we were a newbie. So we really wanted to prove that we could do it and that we had the capacity to do it. So for us, we built sizzle reels, we built full Bibles, we built one-sheeters, because I think we needed to show that proof of concept. So I think that was important.
I put together usually like a pitch document, maybe 3-4 pages long, so it's not too long. but not too short. So it still covers like main things, like it's like a mini Bible, which covers main things like characters, a synopsis, obviously a log line, and then characters and a couple of story ideas as well. Always, and like quick biography, my biography, and I usually work with my husband, Miles McLeod, and he puts his in as well. And I always try to add an image, like a selling image. I try to, because I'm an illustrator and character designer myself, I create like a kind of main image that then I split in bits and bobs and I put it around documents, so reuse it on every page in different way.
On a limited budget, I think we would always focus on, I mean, you can't pitch without a pitch Bible, but the focus of the development would probably go into scripting. And kind of getting, especially if it's a high risk pitch, if we love the idea, but we know there's only a few people we could pitch it to, and it's all about the concept and the story and designs, you know, take it to designs once you've kind of made that initial contact and you've maybe got some interest. We'd maybe lean more into mood boards. We haven't done it yet, but I think also controversially, I think you could use some of those exciting AI tools to kind of generating those mood boards in terms of like just getting those kind of like mood boards, but with mood boards which are slightly more relevant to support it.
I think it depends on where your skills lie, really. If I was a really good character designer and illustrator, I'd probably be leading with that, but I'm not. So I think the way our brains work, me and Colin, and the fact, you know, we grew up together, we have a shorthand and whatever, we hopefully still make each other laugh. So I think that sort of manifests in sometimes going, oh, that's a funny hook for a show. That's not, we don't try to create high concept shows necessarily, and I think that would be terrible advice to say to someone, you should create high concept shows. It's whatever's right for the piece. You know, we've got a few kind of more straight ahead comedies on our slate, and that route doesn't work. You can't really, because especially with something like, oh, it's a sitcom or a buddy comedy, someone's going to go, okay, that's grand, but, you know, show me the script or show me some teaser, let me hear the characters talking. It depends on what you're trying to sell, will tell you what way you need to go. So I think for our projects, we've kind of gone the route just described there, you know, finding the leanest, snappiest way to get someone hooked and leaning into the writing. But I think it really depends on like trust your own skills and your own instincts and what you feel, especially if you're the creator of a show. Don't try to I mean, it's good to try and empathize and put yourself in the position of who you're pitching to, but trust your own instincts too in terms of what excites you about the project and what you feel is the right place to to put your energy.
Yeah, what I can do for free is write and test springboards and soon know if that fifth idea I had late last night with the cheese sandwich is gonna be a good script. And sometimes you got to be prepared to fail, and that isn't a waste of money because I just write. So I do all that first under my own steam, and only then would I go, okay, this idea is surviving. This one's won the day out of my, say, half a dozen ideas for a show. This one's got the most meat to it, I think, and the most legs. And then I would reach out to a designer and spend a little bit of money. But you know, then you just balance that pay, doesn't it? It's something I've learned from an episode script on a show as an episodic writer. I'll put that fee towards an artist and get some key art done for a new show. And I'll just save a bit of my income and put it into a pitch.
It depends on the project again. I mean, we're lucky in Ireland, we can Screen Ireland support development projects, and our broadcaster RTE are also very supportive. So there's we can access funding to get things going, but we need to be really prudent about where we put those resources. So most of the kind of conceptual, writing based, concept based stuff we kind of, Turnip and Duck invests in that. We absorb that internally before we go tapping into other resources, because they're so precious, and generally we need them to, to plug in the stuff we don't have in-house, which is the visual side of materials, or if we need teaser tape and stuff like that. But I think it's sort of back to the overall reaching question with those development funds. Where do you put them, and at what point? It sort of depends in terms of what we're aiming for or what we're pitching. You may be sitting on a little nest of money for a while because you haven't found the right designer yet, and you don't want to take too much of a risk, and then things might take off very quickly because it's like, okay, we've found the right person now, and we're aiming to present this at Annecy or Cartoon Forum or wherever it might be. But I think we're always trying to see, well, where's the best value in that process? And I think in our heads that always comes back to some version of, what can we make here? How can we turn this into making something? And that might end up being a Bible. But again, it's like, how can we send a link to a commissioner that they will click and look at and hopefully get laughing? Because in our experience, that's the most effective use of development funds.
Yeah, I guess the problem here in UK obviously is that there aren't many places you can go with to find access some soft money to be paid to do development. So development is usually done after work, at the weekends, holidays, in the mornings before taking kids to school, so it's like random times. And this is why actually I end up working with Europe a lot, and I have 2 projects in development with Portugal and France, and they have more access. They have access to soft money, and it's great because then my work is paid, which is awesome.
Most definitely, yes. And the role of that soft financing, those grants for development in particular, is absolutely essential. It's the lifeblood of the industry. And they're getting rarer and rarer. Now, it really depends where the production company is, because there are grants available in Scotland, in Northern Ireland. There's new funding available in Wales, for example, and some of the regions in England have got access to that, but it's very small amounts of money. And we were very disappointed when the Young Audience Content Fund closed, because that was a hugely important source of development funding for animation projects. There was over £1 million in grants available to the animation industry in the very short years of the Young Audience Content Fund. And it's essential. This is, for animation, we have to have that funding. We have to be able to work up the characters, the developments, the concepts, and that's a very important part of the pitch that people then make when they're at markets internationally. So not having access to the funding is a real issue.
Yeah, I think it's always a collaboration, and especially, if someone's paying for it, like, you have to respect that up front. It's like, as the producers as well as the creators, we're very, very realistic about that. I think when it's worked best for us is when we've been left to our own devices to a certain extent, so that things aren't too medley from the very start. But at the same time, in our experience, the collaboration process has worked really well, and we've learned so much about the reality of the audience, or the reality from the commissioner's perspective. So I think as long as the tail isn't wagging the dog, so to speak, then that collaboration is to be expected. And I think you just have to be a bit grown up about how you approach it from a creative perspective. When we started out our careers, it's like, well, the suits in the broadcasters were the enemy, and they were there to stamp all over a vision. I think that that's kind of a ridiculous position to take, looking back on it. But that's where you often start out when you're in the creative world, and I think you learn over the years to soften that a little bit and become a bit more realistic. So then there's ways, I think, to set that up from the start, so you can have an open, honest, mature conversation, and just set the stall out early so everyone understands the position, so that things can flow as naturally as possible from there.
I think We definitely lean into it being very collaborative, especially at the beginning, because broadcasters and commissioners, they will know their audience really well. And I think in particular at the moment, even though it might be the same audience, they behave slightly differently on different platforms. And they'll have that really strong understanding of how their audience behave and what they're looking for from that platform, and they can help us find the right place for the project to be. So, I mean, we always find any feedback super helpful. But at the same time, it's always good to be really careful about how you approach responding to that feedback. You don't want to respond to everything. You've really got to kind of absorb it and think about if it's the right fit for the project, and if it is the right route. Because if you respond to everything, you'll end up in this pickle where you're trying to make everyone happy, and it's the too many cooks situation where it all just kind of falls apart.
Obviously, it's your show, and you kind of have this vision. But that said, is it really ever your show? Not really, because there's so many people working on a series that it just becomes hive mind, I think, in regards to kind of, I think it's always good. And I know, I think there's a question about too many chefs, but there's, when you're making a kids' TV show, there's loads of chefs. And I think it's important to have a head chef, but you need all these other people. I always say it's like, baking a cake, you've got all these different ingredients and things. So, and you need all those ingredients to make a good cake. So.
Sometimes it takes quite a few years, I guess, and but because I usually I had a couple of ideas that I tried pitching for a few years, and then because I usually pitch at least 3. It's my rule of thumb. I always take 3 ideas, because then I feel like people will choose the one they prefer, so to say. So you kind of can have a feeling, and also because people are always looking for different things. And one year they can be looking for, I don't know, female character, main character, blah, blah, blah. And then next year they're looking for scientists, and year after it's astronauts and whatever. And every time it changes. And if you try to kind of cater for it, by the time you come up with idea, it's actually already moved on to vehicles with faces. So I always take 3 ideas with me. And then gradually I realize, this one, nobody liked this one ever. No one ever picked this one. No one ever commented on this one. So maybe it's time to park it.
If you've heard the response, which is genuinely, no, this isn't for us. And that can be just our brand, whatever broadcaster, it just isn't a fit, or they've got something similar anyway, or they just genuinely just say, it's just not our thing. Then I think that's the time to say no. If the answer is, we really like it, but we've got no space, or we've got recommission decisions that are pending in 12 months' time, and until we make those decisions, there's no scope for something new, then I think that is absolutely an indication that it could just be about timing. So don't give up on those, definitely.
I think it's really important to know when to stop, because not every project you develop will make it. That's just a fact. You're not going to have 100% success rate as much as you want it. We have 2 folders. We have an active folder, and we have a resting folder. That's the way we prefer to see it. So, and I think when we make that call is when something has been pitched to all available avenues and no realistic option for that project to move it forward has surfaced, even if the response has been great. But we just can't piece together a route to finance the project, then that's where we would put it into the resting folder, and we would, we wait for a better climate. And we have had projects come out of that and then go into commission and go on into production. So it's not the end when it goes into that folder, but it stops us from continuing to pour our energy into something where really we can no longer pitch it, because you can't keep going back to the same people with the same project who have the same criteria and they're not looking for that for whatever reason. Because they quickly won't want to talk to you anymore if you keep coming back to them with the same project.
Creators TV was pretty much commissioned on the basis of like a 2 or 3 line email. So that's as close as we've gotten. That's pretty good in terms of, I think, it being a format that is immediately like, okay, I'll back that. So there was no Bible, no character design. So that's definitely the exception.
The only time it's actually happened was Aardman said yes straight away to distributing for Pop Paper City, which was a lovely experience actually, and quite surprising. I just thought we were going for a chat, and then they kind of like pitched to us as a distributor, and I was like, oh, very excited about that. So I remember trying to be really cool, but and then walking around the corner and be like, yeah.
I think we've had a few of our own where we've been pitched things. One in particular was pitched from one of our in-house artists to us, and we all entered the meeting having no preconceptions of what the project was about. And there was really only a spider diagram and a couple of clay models. And we you could tell we were all like, yes, we're in. This is brilliant. We love it.
I got approached by a company in Portugal, and they were set up a meeting with me, and they said they're looking for ideas for kids' TV shows. And I brought with me a couple of things, as usual. And I opened my laptop and showed them the first one, and they said no. Straight away, like even the image, just the image, no. I opened the second one, they said no. I opened the third one and said, yes, this one. And I was like, okay, what? Really?
Not yet, but I'm an optimist and I always believe it can happen, which is why I stay in the game.
Probably I'd say Horrid Henry was the closest, because when I was at ITV, because it was a great project. We really wanted to do it. Everything was there, but we were all struggling to get the script tone, and I think that's because the books are amazing, and there's this really specific tone to get through that naughtiness. But then in TV, naughtiness is more difficult with imitable behaviour, and that was a struggle. And we were on the verge of thinking maybe this just isn't ever going to work. But the producer's novel really pushed and said, one more try, let us do one more pass, and so we got there. But I think that was a close call, which haunts me really, given how successful it's been.
The overall animation market is huge and booming. I look at statistics and data all the time, and it varies. The value of the overall animation global market varies from $260 billion to, I've seen the latest report putting that at more like $350 billion. That's investment in animation globally. Now, the brilliance of our reputation, you mentioned this earlier, we still absolutely do have that. We're known for our design, our character development, our humor, our technical excellence. We're really good at this. And we have that reputation globally. And it, not just for entertainment, but for education as well. There's a deep respect and reputation to build on. And a massive market that's growing. And animation's not just for entertainment or education, but it's part of most communication, advertising, marketing, medical developments, the metaverse, you name it. We're at the heart of all of those developments. And we are optimistic about the UK's position in that. We do need some of these, lovely term fiscal levers to now work in our favour. We do need more investment from PSPs. We do need an equivalent to, but probably different to, the Young Audience Content Fund to be reintroduced, and we're talking to all sorts of people about that. The BFI have put together an ongoing shorts fund. We need a similar approach to development funding. There are signs that we can be optimistic, but we need to build on that because our reputation is still very much there. So I can't announce anything. I can't give you a precise, this development fund is going to be launched at this time, but there's really good conversations happening. Yes, I'm delighted to say that last year we did a whole session and set of fact sheets on exporting. And during that process, we heard a lot about the difficulties of pitching, how to, who to, when to, all the intel about trends and developments in animation, not just in the UK with the commissioners and the broadcasters in the UK, but obviously globally. So this year, our focus is going to be on getting information out there about the art of pitching, as well as the data that needs to sit behind that, so people have got real information about audience and trends. So in the spring, we hope to run a workshop and invite people to come and hear from an expert, and we will certainly be producing guidance and fact sheets on pitching, because it's such an important part and it's not something everyone feels entirely comfortable with, and they tend to do it by themselves, and launch themselves into quite a very competitive arena. So having put a lot of effort and time into having a big presence at Annecy and Cartoon Forum and other markets and opportunities, Kidscreen, we should be preparing people to enter into that world of competition with the pitching toolkit. So that's what we're going to be developing, and hopefully there'll be more of that, which we'll certainly let CMC know about in the spring, early summer.